Hey guys, this is Swag and Fly, and this is episode number 8 regarding our Halo 5 Forge tutorial series. And in this episode, we're going to cover a very interesting topic. We're going to have a lot of fun. Basically, we're going to go ahead and teach you some in-depth concepts regarding AI. And in this episode, we're going to focus mainly on pathfinding, basically motion planning, how an AI would navigate around an environment to reach a given objective. Now, in this case, we're going to use a node graph method, and what we're going to use is a series of invisible points on a map called nodes, which which tell the AI to navigate through them in order to get to the destination that it needs to go. Now, in Halo 5 Forge, I like to use script brains as a representative of these nodes. And basically, because they're invisible, they're out of the way, they don't do anything, they're only dedicated to scripting. And so basically, we're going to use this method using a countdown in order to get an AI object to iterate through this node network. And it's going to be iterating based on the player's position on the map. So how are we going to do this? Well, basically, let's go ahead and take our script brains. And I already distributed this network on the map, and I labeled them with their own numbers and everything. And the AI in this map is going to be following this path in particular in order. Now, each individual node has a number assigned to it internally, and it will go ahead and perform a series of actions depending on the number of complex conditions that I'm going to have to break down for you in this episode. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we want to go ahead and do is we want to take these script brains, these quote-unquote nodes, and we gotta go ahead and give them identical properties. The only thing that's going to change are their numbers. So we select all of these objects, and we're going to give them a certain boundary. In this case, for simplicity's sake, we're going to go ahead and use a cylinder boundary. And we're going to make it 16 radius, 16 top, 16 bottom. Perfect. Okay. So just to go into a little bit of details, this boundary is important for letting the AI know to chart a path towards this course, and basically the AI will start calculating the countdown until it reaches this node right here. So let's go ahead and apply a script to them. Now, I already created a script, so let me go ahead and delete it and add it one more time. And we're gonna break it down for you real quick. So here we're going to use a condition called boundary check, and basically it's going to check whether a player enters this boundary, the object boundary, and it's going to be checking constantly, so there's not going to be any delay between checking. And next thing we're going to do is that once the player enters the boundary, we're going to go ahead and give it some detailed instructions to go ahead and change a number. So this, we're going to use the number change action to pretty much let the node instruct the node to let the AI know that this is the specific position that the AI needs to go to because the player is located here. Now, the way we do this is that we take a number in a specific category. We have 4 categories: global, player, team, and object, but we're going to use global for this networking purpose. And basically it's going to be setting a number in a given channel. Now, there are 26 channels ranging from channel Alpha to channel Zulu, and basically we're gonna go ahead and use channel Bravo in this case. We're gonna save Alpha for later. We're just gonna go ahead and use label Bravo. So basically, number change is going to take a number in this category and it's going to change it a certain way in order to provide a specific amount. So the global Bravo is going to have a specific number assigned to it every time the player touches the boundary, because that signals to the AI, hey, the player is on node 1, or the player is on node 5, or the player is on node 2. Chart a path to this node. So since this is node number 1, we want to go ahead and provide a value of 1 to the constant. So this is where it actually changes. This is the operation. Basically, this is where it allows you to increment, decrement, multiply, divide, remainder, or randomize the number. But in this case, we want to set it in a fixed amount. We're going to use a constant. We don't want to use a number, object, count, or game value. We're going to use a constant in this case. And since this is node number 1, this node is going to be setting global Bravo to 1 as soon as the player touches the boundary. So that's telling the AI go to node number 1. We're gonna go ahead and change the numbers for the rest of these nodes, but basically we're gonna go ahead and use this one for now. But we will get to that in a second. Now we're gonna go to our second script, and basically what we're going to go ahead and do is this one, we're going to use the number check event to check if a specific if the AI has counted to a specific number. So we're going to use global alpha for this. Now, since this is node number 1, global alpha, it's going to respond to global alpha being 1. I'm sorry, not this one. But we're gonna go ahead and check here. So number check, what it does is that it checks for a given value, and if global alpha equals constant of 1, it's going to be moving an AI towards it, but we'll get to that in a second. So regarding this operator, it's going to check if the global alpha is equal, not equal, greater than equal to, or less than equal to a specific number. In this case, it will be constant 1, and that will be commanding the AI to move towards the player. So I haven't created the AI yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and prepare for that. I just need to set up this network first. And we're gonna go ahead and give the AI a specific label. It's gonna be labeled alpha for future reference. We'll get to this later, but we wanna go ahead and set this up first because it's very important. Now we want to go ahead and take the AI, which will have labeled alpha on it, and it's gonna move towards this object. It's gonna move directly towards the node. There's not gonna be any offset, there's not gonna be any changes on the axis, and it's gonna move to the global position of the object itself. So, and it will do so in 2.90 seconds, and we need to be a little bit specific about this, but I'll go over that in a second. Now we have these two scripts. This one sets a goal for the AI to get to, and this one pulls the AI towards itself, towards the node, once the AI countdown reaches its number. This is number 1, so it's gonna check for 1. Now we're gonna do the same for these other nodes. In this case, what we're gonna go ahead and do is that we're gonna change them to their corresponding numbers. This is node number 2, so we're gonna check for node number 2 and set it to node number 2 as well. Okay, and then we're gonna go with number 3. Okay, number 4. And then number 5. And it's gonna be pretty much navigating around the circle. And let's see. Okay, cool. So now we have our network set up. Each node has its own number. It's gonna respond to its own number. It's gonna set the goal to its own number if the player reaches its boundary. And basically now we can go ahead and create the AI. So the AI itself, in order to navigate, it's gonna have a lot of scripts involved in it. There could be a lot of moving parts. So in this case, we may have to add another object, but in this case, I'm just gonna go ahead and put all the navigation scripts on the AI itself. So we can pick any object we like that is able to be scripted. In this case, for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm gonna use the hazard suit, which is one of my favorite props in Halo 5 Forge, and we're gonna go ahead and give it a number of scripts. So this is where it's gonna get interesting. The first thing we want to do is assign it the label alpha, because remember, the node is going to pull the alpha label object, in this case the AI, towards it for navigation purposes. And the next thing we want to do is set up a number of complex scripts. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off because we don't want to trigger anything out of order. So we're gonna disable scripting for this object for now, and let's go ahead and get started then. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna set up some very specific conditions. So the first thing we want to do is set up a timer, and it's going to be counting to 3 constantly. And every time it counts to 3, it's going to send itself a message. In this case, we're going to go ahead and send the message to the alpha channel. Okay, great, cool. So what's our next script? Our next script would be alright, so our next script, we're going to go ahead and check for the number. Okay, so this is what we're going to go ahead and do. It's going to be checking Bravo. Okay, so global Bravo, we're going to use it as the variable, the category, to set the goal itself. So what it's going to do is it's going to check where in the path the player is, and it's going to be making a number of iterations based on that. So basically, we're going to use number check, we're going to use the global category, we're going to use the Bravo channel, and we're going to set it to equal. And we're going to go ahead and no, I'm sorry, we're not going to set this to equal. We're going to go ahead and put greater than equal to global alpha, because this is where global alpha is supposed to represent where the AI is currently at. Global Bravo is supposed to represent where the AI should be. So if it's greater than or equal to global alpha, then what it's going to go ahead and do is going to set the power, which is, you know, our switch action, and it's going to set it to off. And we'll go ahead and create another script for that in a second. Now we're going to go ahead and create another script that does the opposite. It's going to do number check again. We're going to check for Bravo, and we're going to go ahead and see if it's less than global alpha. If it's less than global alpha, it's going to be, we're going to go ahead and do the opposite. We're going to turn alpha on so it can go ahead and increment in a positive direction. Okay, great. So what's going on here? So we have 3 scripts. We have one that sends a message to us to the alpha channel every 3 seconds, and then we have the second one, which measures where the goal is at, where AI should be at. We actually created 2 scripts dedicated to this to see where he's at and to make any modifications necessary. Now we're going to create a 4th script that is going to meet 2 conditions simultaneously. So we're going to use message power multi. We're going to use 2 as a trigger count because 2 of these conditions need to be met before it can take an action. And we're going to go ahead and check if it received the message and which power setting it's currently at. So basically what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to check if the power alpha is off, and then we're going to go to our number change action, and this is where we modify alpha. So it's going to start making a little bit more sense once we create the entire framework for the navigation. And this case, we're going to go ahead and set alpha increment a constant of 1. So it's going to go 1, 1, 1. So it's going to add 1 every 3 seconds. So 1, 2, 3. And like I previously mentioned, the countdown is going to start counting down until it reaches global Bravo. It uses global alpha to navigate through the network, and then global Bravo is the goal where it should be. It's the node where it should be at. So we're going to go ahead and add 1 because since global Bravo is greater than or equal to global alpha, then it has to add, it has to increment alpha units. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and add another script that does the opposite. So message power multi, message receive alpha, power check on. Yeah, hold on. Okay. Alright, power check on. In this case, we're going to go ahead and use number change again, global alpha. We're going to go ahead and decrement 1. So it's going to subtract 1. Now be very careful, don't put decrement -1 or nothing else like that, because it can be a little bit confusing. So we want to subtract 1, not negative 1. Negative 1. There we go. Okay, cool. So there we go. So we have 5 scripts. The first one sets a movement every 3 seconds. The second one measures, the second and third one measure where the AI is at in relation to its goal. And then the fourth one checks, pretty much initiates a navigation. So does the fifth one. Now you're gonna go ahead and see this in order. So the AI is let me go ahead and turn this back on. So the AI is not moving right now because Bravo is undefined. It's currently node. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, no, I take that back. Looks like the navigation has already begun. So in that case, the AI is where it needs to be. So let's go ahead and go to our second node. And that should, there we go. Now the AI is currently moving around the map. As you can see, he keeps oscillating between nodes, but that's okay. I like to keep it that way anyway. And since I'm on node number 2, he's gonna go ahead and try to get back to node 2, but he's also, gonna go to node 3 based on the way the script was created. So the AI can only navigate through these nodes simply because the nodes commanded to go that way per the countdown, but he can't actually navigate outside of this network. He's only stuck inside the network. So depending on what you want to do, you do want to add nodes throughout the entire map to make sure that the AI can actually navigate through this. And you also want to be careful with shortcuts and other things, because if you don't really set up the nodes right, the AI can actually go the long way when he should be taking shortcuts. That's, that can be pretty tricky at times. So we're on node number 4. He's clearly following me on these nodes, and we're gonna go ahead and head to node number 2. The AI should be navigating towards me momentarily. Oh, there he is. Okay, cool. So that's pretty much of an example of what I just explained to you. Instead of going back to node 1, he's actually gonna go the long way around and go back to node 2. So it really depends on where you place these nodes. So now he's counting backwards because he's going to less nodes. But if I were to go to node number 4, then he's gonna be counting upwards until he reaches his destination. And there we go. Okay, cool. So he's on node number 4 right now. Let's go back to node number 1 and see how he finds his way around. And there we go. Now he's, navigating back towards me. Boom, and now he's back at node number 1. And that's pretty much how it works. Now that pretty much concludes today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching these AI come to life and navigate around the map. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Have fun.